day, I said, Mom, you know, your praying is interfering with my preaching. She looked at me with a smile and said, are you sure your preaching is not interfering with my praying? Well, happy Mother's Day again. Today, once again, the readings of the Scripture present to us the Pilgrim Church and the Triumphal Church. But there's a little twist, a little change in the presentation of the Pilgrim Church today. It is not the Pilgrim Church we saw last week, simply encouraged by Barnabas and Paul. I'm going to get rid of this thing because it's again. It's the Pilgrim Church in its human aspect. The Pilgrim Church with troubles, division, confusion, doubts, fights, disagreements. The human side of the Pilgrim Church is presented in the first reading today. And of course we are familiar with it. We know that the church is human. The church is imperfect. Somebody said, thank God the church is imperfect. Because if it were perfect, we couldn't belong to it. It is an imperfect church made up of human beings, filled with scandals from the beginning to the end. Some people who are so worried about what's happening today forget that the 12 apostles, one betrayed Jesus, one denied him, and the rest of them abandoned him when he was on the cross. Human side of the church, and we know it. And before we say, well, this is the human side of the church, remember, the church is made up of human beings, so let's look at ourselves. How many times we contribute to the human side with our faults, with our own imperfections, and we have them. Anybody here perfect in church? Besides me, that is. None of us. We are imperfect in an imperfect church. So when things happen which show imperfection, we shouldn't be scandalized that, oh man, what's happening? And from the very beginning it was like this, and Jesus knew it. He knew it when he selected the apostles. He knew it when he created that first church, that he was dealing with an imperfect element. But he didn't worry about it. Why? That's not it. He didn't worry about it because he knew what he was giving us. And today we heard in the gospel what he gave us. First of all, if you listen to his word, he, God, the Father, Son, and Spirit, come to dwell in us. And he promised the Spirit, and he gave us the Spirit. He gave us his love. These are all divine powers. And the divine powers in an imperfect world the children of the Father, and the doers of love deeds. So today we thank Him. We recognize our nothingness. We recognize our fault. Our popes in the last few years have been apologizing to the world for all the mistakes of the church in the past. We should turn to the Lord and say, I'm sorry for my mistakes, for my faults, for my imperfections. At the same time say, Lord, don't give up on me. He doesn't give up on us. Sometimes we give up on ourselves, not Him. He never gave up on Peter. He never gave up on the apostles. He would have forgiven Judas if Judas had the courage to say, forgive me. He never gives up on us. He still says, I don't care. Yes, you are imperfect. You're human. But I want you